The stars were quiet that night, too quiet. Earth's skies, usually filled with the usual hum of satellites and ships, now felt unnaturally still. The air was thick with tension as humanity waited for something they couldn't yet understand. On Earth, in the command centers around the world, every screen displayed the same chilling message: the Zaran Armada has entered the solar system. For years, humanity had prepared for this moment. The Zaran were an ancient alien race, known for their ruthless campaigns across the galaxy. Their fleets were feared by everyone. No species had ever defeated them. No one knew why the Zaran had set their sights on Earth. But all that mattered now was that they had arrived, and Earth's fate hung in the balance. The Sentinel, Earth's most powerful warship, sat in orbit above the planet. On board, Commander Jason Hale watched as the fleet's sensors detected the alien ships, massive dark shapes moving through the void. The Zaran had arrived. Their fleet was unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Each ship was a colossus, its hull forged from an unknown metal that absorbed light, making them look like shadowy giants. "All hands on deck," Commander Hale's voice rang through the loudspeakers. "This is not a drill. Prepare for combat." The crew of the Sentinel rushed to their stations. The ship's advanced weaponry powered up. Its immense cannons hummed with energy, ready to fire on command. The crew felt a mix of fear and resolve. Fear because the Zaran had never been defeated, and resolve because they had no other choice. Humanity was facing its greatest enemy, and they would fight, even if it meant their destruction. As the Zaran ships moved closer, Earth's fleets readied their defenses. Warships, fighters, and defense satellites surrounded the planet, all aimed at stopping the approaching Armada. The air was thick with static as human communication lines buzzed and the tension grew. Earth was ready, but they knew this might be their final battle. The alien ships didn't stop. They simply moved forward, their advance slow but unstoppable. Each massive vessel carried thousands of soldiers, and their weapons were deadly. Humanity's first attempt to stop them had failed. The first wave of human missiles had been wiped out in seconds. It was clear that the Zaran were here to finish what they had started, and no one knew what that was. But as the ships neared Mars, something strange happened. The Zaran fleet stopped. All at once, the entire Armada paused in space, their engines no longer sending out the usual pulsing hum of power. The dark ships simply floated in the cold vacuum, as still as the stars themselves. Commander Hale stared at his screen, his brow furrowed. "What are they doing?" he muttered under his breath. "Why have they stopped?" The fleet had been preparing for a full assault, but now, it seemed, they were waiting. There was an eerie silence in the command center of the Sentinel. Even the usual chatter of the crew had stopped. Everyone was staring at the monitor, trying to make sense of it. The alien ships were still, their immense shapes hanging like shadows over the red surface of Mars. Then, a strange signal echoed through the communication systems. At first it sounded like static, but then it began to form something different. It wasn't a voice. It was a sound, like a deep hum, followed by an unnatural series of clicks and hisses. The Sentinel's communication officer, Lieutenant Emily Ward, quickly ran the signal through the translation software, but nothing came up. The message was scrambled. It was clear that the Zaran were trying to communicate, but the language was unlike anything humanity had encountered. The signal grew louder, vibrating through the metal hull of the Sentinel, and then suddenly it stopped. The screen flickered once, and then the image of the Zaran fleet vanished. In an instant, the massive alien ships, which had filled the screen just moments ago, were gone. The Sentinel was left staring at empty space. What the hell just happened? Hale asked, his voice a mixture of disbelief and fear. The crew remained silent, unsure of how to respond. Their weapons, once primed and ready, now felt useless. The fleet had disappeared, as though it had never been there at all. Lieutenant Ward checked the scanners again. "Sir, I don't understand." "The ships are gone. There's no trace of them." Commander Hale's hands gripped the edge of the control panel, his mind racing. The Zaran had never acted like this before. They were notorious for their merciless conquests, Yet here they were, vanishing without a fight, without even a warning. Hale's instincts told him this wasn't over. Something was happening, something even worse than the invasion they had prepared for. "Stay alert," Hale ordered, his voice hard. "They may have a trick up their sleeves. Don't trust this silence. We'll stay in position until we know exactly what's going on." But as the Sentinels sat in orbit, surrounded by the remains of their defensive line, something else began to happen. Around Mars, strange energy signatures flared to life, and in the distance another ship, one that hadn't been there before, appeared. It wasn't Zaran. It was something else, something bigger. And this time it wasn't disappearing. It was coming toward them. Cliffhanger. The new ship neared at impossible speed, its shape unlike anything the humans had ever seen. As the crew watched in horror, it began to glow with an unnatural light. Something far more dangerous was approaching, and the Zaran fleet's disappearance was only the beginning. The silence was deafening. Commander Hale stood at the front of the Sentinel's command center, his eyes fixed on the screen as the mysterious ship drew closer. The energy readings from the new vessel were unlike anything Earth scientists had ever encountered. Its form shimmered and fluctuated in and out of focus, as though it were a shadow, a nightmare given shape. It was massive, at least 10 times the size of the largest human warship, and its appearance was nothing like the Zaran ships. This was something new, something terrifying. "Report!" Hale's voice cracked through the room, urgent and commanding. Lieutenant Ward, the communication officer, quickly checked her systems. "Sir, the ship is still unresponsive to our hails." "No response at all." "The energy readings. They're off the charts. It's almost like it's not using conventional propulsion." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The Sentinel's sensors couldn't make sense of what they were seeing. The strange ship's hull seemed to ripple, as though it were made of liquid light rather than solid metal. And yet, despite its bizarre appearance, it was definitely headed toward Mars, heading straight for the heart of humanity's last defenses. "It's like it's alive," Ward muttered. More to herself than anyone else. Hale didn't have time to worry about that. He turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare all weapons. We don't know what this thing is, but I'm not waiting for it to make the first move." As the crew scrambled to ready themselves for what might come next, a chilling sound suddenly filled the room, a deep, pulsating hum that seemed to resonate through the very walls of the ship. The noise grew louder and louder until it felt like it was inside their heads. It was the same eerie frequency they had heard in the Zaran's last transmission, but this time it was far more intense. The hum seemed to vibrate the air itself. "Shut it down!" Hale ordered, but it was too late. The hum intensified, now accompanied by a strange, distorted voice that crackled through the ship's speakers. It was not a language, but rather a mixture of clicks, growls, and low rumbling tones. The crew couldn't understand it. It sounded ancient, alien, and as the voice echoed through the ship, every light on the Sentinel flickered and dimmed. Lieutenant Ward frantically typed commands into her terminal, trying to trace the source of the signal. "It's coming from the alien ship, Commander. But it's encrypted. We can't decode it. Don't bother trying to decode it. I need answers now." Hale's frustration was growing. Suddenly the hum stopped. Everything went still. The lights returned to normal, and the ship's systems hummed back to life. The crew looked around, unsure of what had just happened. But then a new image appeared on the command center's display, an image of the alien ship, clearer now, as though it had crossed some invisible threshold. And with it a new message. The ship's surface pulsed once more, this time brighter than before, and then a final transmission cut through the air. A single word appeared on the screen, written in a language Earth had never seen. But the meaning was unmistakable. "Help." The message hung there for a moment before the screen went black. The room went dead silent. No one moved. Everyone just stared at the word that lingered on the screen. Did we just hear them ask for help?" Ward's voice trembled with disbelief. Commander Hale rubbed his face, trying to process what he was hearing. The Zaran had attacked Earth without warning, and now this ship, this monstrous entity, had just asked for help? It made no sense. How could something so advanced, so powerful, need help from humanity? Whatever this is, we can't let our guard down, Hale said, his voice hard. If they're trying to trick us, we need to be ready. But we can't ignore the message. Something is seriously wrong. Just as he finished speaking, the mysterious ship began to move again. This time, it wasn't headed straight for Mars. Instead, it veered off course, moving toward the far side of the solar system near the asteroid belt. The crew watched in confusion, trying to understand its next move. But before they could process what was happening, the communications officer suddenly spoke up again, her voice shaking. So there's a fleet, another fleet appearing in the asteroid belt. It's not the Zaran. It's too big to be anything we've seen before. A new wave of tension swept through the command center. The ship that had just asked for help had now vanished into the void, and yet the sudden appearance of another fleet was a threat in itself. Hale's heart sank. Was this part of the Zaran invasion, or was it something else entirely? We need to move, Hale barked. Launch all scout ships and get the Sentinel ready for combat. Whatever is out there, we need to be prepared. The crew scrambled to obey, but the tension was palpable. How could they possibly be ready for an enemy they didn't understand? The last message from the mysterious ship still echoed in Hale's mind. It had asked for help, yet no one knew who or what was coming next. As the crew made final preparations for what lay ahead, the asteroid belt glowed with an eerie light, and in the distance, the new fleet moved slowly forward, its shape still indistinct. Whatever it wasn't just another alien force. It was something different, something ancient, something far more dangerous. The crew of the Sentinel had never felt more on edge. The mysterious alien ship had vanished, leaving nothing but confusion and fear in its wake. But as if to add fuel to the fire, the new fleet, whatever it was, continued its slow, deliberate march toward the asteroid belt. The energy readings from the fleet were unlike anything the Sentinel had encountered before, fluctuating wildly and emitting strange pulses that distorted their instruments. Commander Hale stood in the command center, his fists clenched. The silence in the room was unnerving. The crew could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. Every moment that passed, without any explanation, seemed like an eternity. "Status report, Lieutenant," Hale ordered. Lieutenant Ward, her face pale, quickly checked her screens. "Sir, the fleet has reached the asteroid belt. There's something strange happening. The energy levels are off the charts. It's like they're drawing power from the belt itself." Hale's eyes narrowed. The asteroid belt was a lifeless place, a region of space littered with rock and debris. It made no sense for any ship, especially one of this size and power, to be using it as an energy source. The mysterious fleet had to be using some kind of advanced technology beyond human comprehension. "What do you mean, drawing power?" Hale asked. Ward hesitated before responding, unsure if she was interpreting the readings correctly. "It's almost like the entire belt is glowing. The asteroids are pulsing with energy. It's like they're charging something." Before Hale could respond, the communications officer, Ensign Mitchell, spoke up, his voice trembling. "Sir, we've detected something else. Something huge. There's a storm forming in the asteroid belt. I've never seen anything like it, a storm. In space, the thought seemed impossible. But as Mitchell's words sank in, a new set of readings appeared on the monitors. A massive storm was indeed forming around the fleet, a swirling vortex of energy and light that distorted space itself. The storm was growing rapidly, spreading outward from the center of the asteroid belt, and the fleet was at its core. Hale turned to Ward, his mind racing. "What is it? Is it a natural phenomenon?" Ward's fingers flew across the control panel as she tried to analyze the readings. "No, sir. This is no natural storm. It's being generated, and it's not just a storm, it's a weapon. The energy levels are increasing exponentially. If we're not careful, it could spread through the entire solar system." A chill ran through the room. Hale's mind immediately went into overdrive. This wasn't just an alien fleet coming to invade. This was something far worse. The storm wasn't just a random phenomenon. It was a tool, a weapon capable of devastating the entire system. And it was getting stronger. Can we stop it? Hale asked, his voice low and urgent. I don't know, Ward said, her voice strained. Whatever it is, it's drawing power from the entire asteroid belt. If we don't stop it soon, the energy released could tear apart anything in its path, including the planet. Hale looked at the screen showing the storm's rapid expansion. His thoughts flashed to Earth, his family, his friends, everyone. The alien threat had already put the planet on the brink of extinction, and now this weapon was threatening to wipe out everything in its path. Humanity didn't have much time. Send a fleet of scouts, Hale ordered. We need more intel. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with here. And get me an update from Mars. Do we have any backup coming? As the crew scrambled to follow orders, Hale stood by the viewport, staring out into the blackness of space. The storm was growing by the minute, swirling like a dark hurricane in the void. And at the center of it all, the alien fleet moved with eerie precision, unaffected by the storm surrounding them. A sudden, sharp noise interrupted Hale's thoughts. The communications officer turned quickly, her face pale. Sir, there's a signal. It's coming from inside the storm. Put it on the screen, Hale said, his heart racing. The storm was starting to affect their equipment, making the image fuzzy and distorted, but the words that came through were clear. Leave now. The voice was guttural, harsh, and alien, but the message was unmistakable. Leave now, Hale repeated, stunned. Who is this? What do you want? The voice continued, but the words were distorted by the storm's interference. We are the lost ones, the ones who awoke. From beyond, the message cut out abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in the room. The crew exchanged looks, unsure of what to make of it. What the hell is going on? Hale muttered. This was no longer just an alien invasion. This was something older, something that had been waiting in the dark corners of space. And now it was here, threatening to destroy everything. Suddenly the storm intensified. The swirling vortex of energy grew larger and more violent, its destructive power increasing with every second. On the monitors, the asteroid belt seemed to be coming to life, glowing with an unnatural energy as the storm fed off it. Sir, Mitchell shouted, the storm's expanding. It's heading toward Mars. We're running out of time. Hale's eyes locked on the display showing Mars. The storm's edge was now closing in on the red planet, and soon it would be within range of Earth. If the storm wasn't stopped soon, there would be nothing left of their world. Get the fleet ready for a full assault, Hale ordered, his voice cold with determination. We're not waiting any longer. We're going in. But as the fleet prepared to launch, another pulse of energy radiated from the center of the storm, and the Sentinel shook violently. The lights flickered as the entire ship was rocked by the force of the blast. Systems scrambled, alarms blared, and then silence. The ship's systems came back online, but the storm was now in full swing. The fleet was in danger of being swallowed whole. As the crew fought to stabilize the ship, another message came through. Its meaning clearer now. The storm will end when the chosen ones arrive. The Sentinel was rocked again by another violent pulse from the energy storm. The ship's hull groaned as its systems struggled to stay online. The crew scrambled to maintain control, their faces tense, eyes wide with fear. The storm outside was no longer just a strange anomaly. It was a force of nature, a living, breathing entity, and it was closing in on Mars. The distant red planet was now bathed in the eerie glow of the storm's energy, as though it were being prepared for something far worse. Commander Hale gripped the control panel, his knuckles white. "Status report!" he barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. Lieutenant Ward quickly checked her screens. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Mars outpost. The storm's energy is disrupting our communications. We're on our own." Hale's heart sank. Mars had been their last line of defense, humanity's last hope for a safe haven in the event of an invasion. But now the planet was within the storm's reach. The fleet was helpless against the overwhelming energy. They were running out of time, and Hale knew that if they didn't act soon, it could be the end. "Get me a direct line to the fleet commanders," Hale ordered. "We're going in." He turned toward the viewport, staring out at the swirling storm that surrounded the fleet. The Sentinel's sensors had identified something even more terrifying within the heart of the storm, a massive, unseen object. At first, the readings were faint, but now they were unmistakable. There was someone out there, something huge, something ancient, something that had been hidden for centuries, waiting for this moment. "Commander, I'm picking up energy fluctuations inside the storm," Ward said, her voice trembling. "It's massive, more powerful than anything we've seen before. It's like it's feeding off the storm." The ship's screens flickered again, and a distorted image appeared on the main display. A massive, monstrous silhouette took shape within the storm, its outline barely visible through the blinding flashes of energy. It was enormous, so large that it dwarfed the Zaran Armada, and its shape was unlike anything the crew had ever seen. It had a sleek, streamlined body that seemed to pulse with energy, a dark, almost fluid-like surface that shimmered like black glass. "That thing, it's not just a ship," Ward whispered. "It's alive." Hale didn't need to hear more. He'd seen enough. The storm wasn't just a weapon. It was a creature, a living entity feeding off the energy of the asteroid belt. And this was its true form. The storm had been hiding it, cloaking it in shadows until it was ready to emerge. "What do we do, sir?" Lieutenant Ward asked, her voice shaking. Hale took a deep breath, trying to keep his composure. He had to act fast. If this creature was as powerful as it seemed, it could obliterate everything in its path, and Earth was next in line. "We need to engage it before it reaches Mars," Hale said, his voice firm. "Get the fleet ready. We're going in full force. This is humanity's last chance." The crew moved quickly, following their orders. Fighters launched from the Sentinel, and the remaining ships of Earth's fleet joined the assault, forming a tight battle formation. As the fleet moved toward the center of the storm, the massive creature loomed larger in their sights. It was more than just a ship. It was a beast, its surface shifting and changing with every pulse of energy that flowed through it. Then the creature moved. Slowly at first, but with terrifying purpose, it began to close the distance between itself and the fleet. The storm seemed to move with it, swirling faster and more violently as the creature advanced. "Open fire," Hale commanded. The fleet unleashed everything they had. Cannon fire. Energy blasts and missiles streaked toward the creature. The explosions lit up the storm, sending shockwaves through the void. For a moment, it looked like the creature was staggering, its surface crackling with energy. But then, to the horror of the crew, it didn't just absorb the blasts, it fed on them. The energy surged, and the creature's form solidified, growing stronger with each attack. "Sir, it's too powerful," Ward shouted. "We're doing nothing. It's like it's absorbing all of our energy." The creature retaliated, sending out a pulse of energy that rippled through space, pushing the fleet back. The Sentinel shook violently, the crew struggling to keep control as the shockwaves slammed into them. "Hold steady," Hale barked, gripping the armrest of his seat.
"We can't back down now."
But as the creature advanced, something unexpected happened. The storm around it began to change. The energy that had been swirling wildly started to focus, condensing into a beam of pure power that shot out from the creature's core. The beam slammed into the nearest warship, instantly obliterating it in a flash of blinding light. The remaining ships hesitated for a moment. They had never faced anything like this. An enemy that could absorb energy, an enemy that could obliterate entire ships with a single strike. But Hale knew they had no choice. This was the moment of truth. They either fought back or watched humanity burn. "Bring us closer," Hale shouted. "We have to get in range for a direct hit." The Sentinel maneuvered through the chaos, moving toward the creature with every ounce of speed it could muster. The other ships followed, but they were struggling to keep up. The creature's power was overwhelming, and as it grew stronger, its attacks became more deadly. "Get ready to fire everything we've got," Hale ordered. This is our only shot." As they closed in on the creature, Hale's heart pounded in his chest. The fate of humanity rested on this final strike. The Sentinel's weapons locked onto the creature's core, and with a final, desperate command, Hale gave the order. Fire. The full force of Earth's remaining firepower shot toward the creature, a barrage of missiles and energy blasts, lighting up the storm as they struck the alien beast. The creature let out a deafening roar as the blasts hit, and for a brief moment it seemed as though the storm itself had paused. But then, from the depths of the storm, something even more terrifying began to emerge. Another figure, bigger, darker, more powerful. The roar of the creature echoed through space, a sound so powerful it seemed to shake the very fabric of reality. The barrage of energy blasts and missiles had hit their mark, but the creature, this living monstrosity, was far from finished. It staggered, its surface crackling with the energy it had absorbed, but the damage was minimal. The storm around it, which had seemed like a chaotic force, now felt more like a shield, protecting the creature from every attack. The fleet, battered and broken, struggled to regroup. The Sentinel, still in motion, tried to push forward, but it was clear. Nothing Earth had was enough to stop this thing. The creature was feeding, growing stronger with each passing second. Commander Hale stood at the front of the command center, his eyes fixed on the screen. His fingers gripped the edge of the control panel as he processed what was happening. They were running out of options. The fleet was down to a handful of ships, most of them severely damaged, with no chance of surviving another assault. The creature wasn't just a physical enemy. It was a living, breathing nightmare that devoured energy, that adapted faster than anything humanity had ever faced. "We can't hold back," Hale said through gritted teeth, his voice heavy with the weight of the situation. "Launch everything we have left. Every weapon, every fighter." The crew looked at each other, unsure of how much more they could throw at the creature. It was already too strong. The energy it was absorbing had made it almost invincible, and they were now fighting a losing battle. "Sir, we've got another problem," Lieutenant Ward said, her voice tense as she looked at her screen. "There's something else. A second vessel, bigger than the first." Hale's heart skipped a beat. "Another one. What the hell is it?" Ward's fingers flew over her console, trying to process the data. "It's not just a ship, Commander. It's alive. It's emerging from the center of the storm, and it's massive. It's almost like it's a part of the storm itself." The second creature was unlike anything Hale had ever seen. Its massive form began to take shape, the dark, fluid-like surface rippling, as though it were made of the same energy as the storm. It was blacker than the void of space, and the mere sight of it made the hairs on the back of Hale's neck stand up. It was alive, and it radiated an aura of pure malice. "The storm is its domain," Ward whispered. "The energy is its power." "It is the storm," Hale's mind raced. Two creatures now. One the beast that had nearly destroyed the fleet, and the other this monstrous new entity. Together, they were more than Earth could handle. Humanity was facing annihilation, and there was no way they could fight back with brute force alone. "There's no way we're getting out of this alive, are we?" Ward said, almost as though she was reading Hale's mind. Hale took a deep breath, his mind focusing on the only thing that mattered now. "We're not running," he said firmly. "We don't give up." He turned to his weapons officer. "Activate the Sentinel's experimental weapon. We need everything we've got. It's time to try the last option." The weapons officer hesitated. "Commander, the Sentinel's experimental weapon hasn't been fully tested. We're not sure if it will even work." "We don't have a choice," Hale said, his voice hard with determination. "Fire it now!" The Sentinel's experimental weapon had been a last-ditch project designed to counter powerful alien threats, but it had never been tested in battle. Its power output was unknown, and its effects were a complete mystery. But there was no time for hesitation. If this weapon could do anything to stop the creatures, it was their last chance. The weapon hummed to life, its energy surging through the ship's systems. The crew watched, holding their breath, as the massive cannon charged. But just as they prepared to fire, the second creature, larger, more powerful than the first, suddenly moved. It spread its massive wings, unfurling them like a dark omen, and the storm began to intensify once more. The creature surged toward the sentinel, its form massive and all-encompassing. Its glowing eyes locked onto the ship, and a pulse of energy shot out from its core, aimed directly at the sentinel. The blast struck with a force so powerful it felt like the universe itself was collapsing. "Brace for impact," Hale shouted as the entire ship was rocked by the blast. The crew screamed as the sentinel shook violently. The screens flickered and went dark. The lights dimmed, and the entire command center was thrown into chaos. For a moment, it seemed like the sentinel was done for. The storm around them was getting worse, and the creature was only getting closer. But then, through the chaos, the crew saw something, a flicker of light, a tiny sliver of hope. The experimental weapon, still charged, fired. A beam of pure, concentrated energy shot toward the creature, striking it in the chest. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. The storm paused, the massive creature staggered, and the Sentinel crew watched in stunned silence. Had it worked? Had they finally found a way to hurt it? The creature let out a blood-curdling roar as the beam of energy ripped through its body. It convulsed violently, its massive form shuddering. But then, just when the crew thought they had won, something even more terrifying happened. The creature's body began to regenerate. It was healing. Its wounds closed almost instantly, and the energy surged back into the creature, making it stronger than before. "Commander, it's impossible," Ward said, her voice filled with disbelief. "It's healing itself. It's getting stronger with every attack." Hale's heart sank as he realized the truth. The creature wasn't just alive. It was a force of nature, an ancient, unkillable entity that fed off the energy around it. Their weapons were useless. They couldn't stop it. And then, just as the creature began to approach again, something else emerged from the heart of the storm. Something darker. Something that made the previous two creatures look small in comparison. A new figure appeared in the storm, a massive warship, unlike anything the crew had ever seen. Its surface was blacker than the darkest void, its shape a twisted mockery of everything humanity had ever known. And at the helm, a figure stood, watching them with glowing eyes. The storm around the Sentinel continued to grow, an unstoppable vortex of energy that threatened to consume everything in its path. The two creatures, now joined by the new monstrous warship, circled the fleet like predators eyeing their prey. The ship's crew, battered and broken, could only watch in horror as their weapons, every missile, every blast, every laser, had no effect on the relentless power of these alien beings. Humanity's greatest weapon, the Sentinel, was now on the verge of collapse. Commander Hale stood at the front of the command center, his eyes locked onto the viewscreen, watching as the alien warship emerged from the storm, its massive form blacker than the void itself. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. No hull, no markings, just a dark silhouette, like a shadow that was too large to be real. Its power, both physical and energetic, seemed to radiate from it in waves. "Commander, the fleet can't hold out much longer," Lieutenant Ward said, her voice thick with dread. "They're picking us off one by one. The Sentinel is the only ship still standing, but we're almost out of power." Hale's mind raced. Earth had been fighting this war for what felt like an eternity, but now, with the appearance of this new warship and the unstoppable creatures, it felt like they were fighting a losing battle. No weapons could breach the storm, and no fleet could withstand the fury of these invincible forces. He turned toward Ward, his face grim. "How long until the storm reaches Earth?" Ward looked at the screen, where the energy pulses were now crackling dangerously close to Mars. "If we don't stop it now, the storm will reach Earth within the next few hours. At the rate it's growing, we don't have the luxury of time. Mars will fall. Earth will be next." The truth hit Hale like a hammer to the chest. There was no escape. The storm was an unstoppable force, a harbinger of destruction that no amount of military might could stop. The creatures were too powerful. The storm was too vast. It was only a matter of time before the entire solar system was swallowed whole. But there was one thing Hale knew. Humanity had never backed down from a fight. And he wasn't about to let Earth fall without a final stand. He turned to his crew, his eyes burning with determination. "We're not going to run. We're going to end this," Hale said, his voice steady and fierce. Ward looked at him, uncertainty clouding her features. "Commander, how can we possibly—" "We have one option left," Hale interrupted. "The ancient technology we discovered on Mars, remember? The weapon they hid beneath the surface. If it works, it could destroy the storm. If we activate it, we might be able to sever the energy link between the creatures and the storm itself." The crew fell silent for a moment, the weight of Hale's words sinking in. The weapon on Mars had been a last resort option, a mysterious technology discovered in the deep caves beneath the red planet. It was powerful, ancient, and untested, but it was humanity's last hope. Ward shook her head. "The Sentinel is too far from Mars. We can't reach it in time." "We don't need to get there," Hale said, his voice taking on a sense of urgency. "We can activate the weapon remotely. We've built the system to link into Mars's core. It's our only shot." The crew exchanged uncertain glances. They all knew the risks. The weapon was untested, and no one knew what activating it might do to the storm or to the creatures. But they had no other choice. They couldn't win the battle. But they could stop the storm. They could stop the end. "Get me a direct line to Mars," Hale ordered. Ward quickly input commands into the console, establishing a connection to Mars. The video feed flickered for a moment before a familiar face appeared on the screen. It was General Catherine Wells, the leader of the Mars outpost. Her face was grim, but her eyes showed the same determination Hale had seen in his own crew. "We're running out of time, Commander," Wells said, her voice tight with tension. "The storm's energy is affecting everything, but we're ready to fire the weapon." "Just give the word," Hale's heart raced. This was it, the moment of truth. "General Wells, activate the weapon now. We don't have time to waste. The storm will reach Earth within hours, and we can't afford to wait any longer." Wells nodded, her expression hardening. "Understood. Stand by." As Hale watched, the feed from Mars showed massive energy surges from the planet's surface. It was as if the planet itself was coming alive, its core resonating with energy as the weapon powered up. The deep vibrations traveled through space, and Hale could feel the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. "Sir, the fleet is moving in," Ward said, her voice barely audible. "The creatures are converging on us. They know what we're doing." The two creatures, the monstrous beings that had once seemed invincible, now circled the Sentinel like hungry wolves. The warship they had brought with them loomed just beyond the storm, its black surface reflecting the chaotic energy that surrounded them. "Ready the final strike," Hale said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "We need to buy Mars time. The weapon is humanity's last chance." The Sentinel's cannons hummed to life, charging as the creatures closed in. Hale knew this was it, the last stand. They would either win or perish, but they would not go down without a fight. "Firing!" The weapons officer shouted, his finger trembling over the trigger. The Sentinel fired a massive blast of energy straight into the heart of the storm. The beam pierced the blackened atmosphere, striking the creatures with all the fury the Sentinel had left. For a moment, it looked like the creatures might falter, but instead they retaliated with a pulse of their own, blasting the Sentinel back, shaking the ship to its core. "General Wells, now!" Hale shouted, gripping the armrest of his seat. The feed from Mars showed the weapon firing, a massive, blinding beam of energy shooting up from the planet's core. It sliced through the storm, striking the heart of the vortex, where the creatures were linked to the energy. For a moment, there was silence. The storm seemed to stop. The creatures recoiled, their forms flickering as though the energy had torn at their very essence. Then the ship's systems went dark. The Sentinel's lights flickered, and Hale looked up at the viewscreen. The storm had stopped, but the creatures weren't gone. The massive warship, now fully revealed, began to move once more. And with it, an even greater power began to stir, one that had been lying dormant for millennia. The Sentinel rocked violently as the storm's energy dissipated, leaving a strange calm in its wake. The roar of the alien warship faded, replaced by an eerie silence. For a fleeting moment, it felt like victory was within reach. But Commander Hale's instincts told him this was far from over. He stared at the viewscreen, where the massive alien warship loomed like a beast in the void, its dark surface gleaming with a sinister energy. The storm had stopped, but the creatures, those living horrors, were still there. And they were not backing down. "Report," Hale ordered, his voice low but firm. Lieutenant Ward's fingers danced across her console, trying to process the chaotic data. "Sir, the energy readings are fluctuating wildly. The weapon we activated on Mars did something to the storm, but it also seems to have awakened something else. The alien warship is charging up. It's preparing for another attack." Hale's mind raced. If the storm was gone, why was the warship still powering up? It didn't make sense. And then it hit him. The creatures weren't the only threat. This warship, this colossal vessel, was more than just a ship. It was a weapon, an ancient weapon of destruction, and it had been waiting for this moment to strike. "Is the fleet still holding?" Hale asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. "They're trying to regroup, but we've lost most of our ships," Ward replied, her voice strained. "The Sentinel is the last standing vessel. Sir, we're completely outmatched." "Not yet," Hale said, his voice filled with determination. "We still have a chance." Suddenly the ship's alarms blared, cutting through the tense silence. A strange signal appeared on the screen, something completely unexpected. It wasn't the alien warship. It wasn't the creatures. This signal was human. "What is this?" Ward muttered, her eyes widening as she scanned the incoming transmission. It's a military distress signal, but it's coming from the heart of the storm." "How is that possible?" Before Hale could answer, the image on the screen flickered and changed. The transmission was clear now, and what appeared on the screen made Hale's heart stop. A group of human soldiers standing in formation appeared before them. They wore armor unlike anything Hale had ever seen, gleaming, intricate, with a mix of advanced technology and ancient markings. They looked like warriors from a different time, their eyes glowing with an intense, almost unnatural light. "Who are they?" Ward gasped, her voice filled with awe. Hale didn't know. He had never seen anything like this before. The soldiers' armor was ancient, yet undeniably advanced, and their presence exuded a sense of power that was impossible to ignore. Then one of the soldiers, a towering figure in golden armor, stepped forward. His voice echoed through the transmission, deep and commanding. "We are the Guardians," the soldier said, his voice reverberating with authority. "The ancient protectors of this galaxy. We have come to answer your call." Hale's heart raced. "Guardians? What do you mean? Who are you?" The soldier's glowing eyes focused on Hale. "We are the ones who fought the creatures long ago, when they first appeared. We were chosen to guard the galaxy from their darkness. But we were lost, trapped in the void. Now we have returned." "Trapped in the void?" Ward echoed. "You mean you've been here all along?" "Yes," the Guardian said. "We were waiting, watching." The storm was not just a weapon. It was a test, a trial that the creatures set for you. "And now you are ready to face them." The Guardian paused, and his expression hardened. "The warship you see before you, the one you think is a weapon, it is not just a weapon. It is the source of their power. The creature that controls it is the last of their kind, and it must be destroyed, or the galaxy will fall." Hale took a deep breath. "So, you're saying you can help us defeat them?" The Guardian nodded. "We have the power to destroy the creature, but we need your help. You are the key to ending this war. Together, we can defeat them." "Wait," Ward interjected, her voice filled with disbelief. "You're saying we're supposed to fight alongside you? But how? We're barely holding on as it is." "You're asking us to stand against a force we barely understand." The Guardian's expression softened. "The creatures that plague you now are not invincible. They are powerful, yes, but they are not gods. They have weaknesses. We will teach you how to exploit them. But first, you must trust us." Hale stared at the screen, his mind spinning with everything he had just heard. Could these soldiers really be the key to defeating the alien threat? If they had fought these creatures before, then they had to know something humanity didn't. But trusting them meant putting everything at risk. Earth, Mars, and what was left of the fleet. "We don't have much time," Hale said, his voice unwavering. "How do we stop them?" The Guardian's eyes glowed brighter, and his voice grew more intense. "There is an artifact buried deep within the warship's core. If we can reach it, we can sever the connection between the creature and its power source. That is our only chance." Hale's mind clicked into place. He understood now. This wasn't just a battle for survival. This was a chance to end the war once and for all. "Where is the artifact?" Hale asked, his voice steady. The Guardian looked back at the warship, his expression unreadable. "It is hidden deep within the ship at its core. But to reach it, you must first face the creature itself. It will guard the artifact with its life." Hale turned to his crew, a sense of resolve settling over him. The Sentinel was Earth's last hope, but now they had a new ally, an ancient force that had stood against this darkness before. It was humanity's chance to make a stand, to fight not just for survival, but for victory. "Prepare for the final battle," the Guardian's voice echoed through the ship's speakers. "The creature is coming, and the warship will not fall without a fight. But we are with you. Together, we will end this." The Sentinel drifted silently in space, surrounded by the wreckage of humanity's fleet. The last of the warships were barely operational, and the fighters had long since been destroyed. Only the Sentinel stood between Earth and total annihilation. The storm had faded, but the alien warship, now fully revealed, loomed large on the screen, a colossal dark mass that absorbed the light around it. The Guardian soldiers stood with their weapons ready, their glowing eyes fixed on the view screen, as though sensing the storm that was still brewing in the depths of space. Commander Hale stood tall in the command center, his eyes hard with resolve. "We don't have any more time. The warship's preparing to strike again." Lieutenant Ward looked at her console, her face pale. "Sir, the readings are off the scale. It's charging up. If we don't take action now, it'll be over." The Guardian warrior, who had been communicating with them, the towering figure in golden armor, stepped forward. His eyes flashed with urgency. "You must go inside the warship. The artifact is at its core. That is the key to severing their connection to the storm. We will hold the line here, but you must act quickly." Hale nodded grimly. "You're right. The time for waiting is over." The crew moved quickly to prepare. The Sentinel had a few remaining boarding pods, and they would use these to infiltrate the alien warship. Hale's team, alongside the Guardians, would face the final assault. "General Wells, how are the Mars defenses?" Hale asked, his voice tight with worry. Wells' face appeared on the screen, the expression on her face as grim as his. "The weapon you activated on Mars has slowed the warship's advance, but it hasn't stopped it. We're doing everything we can to hold the line. But, Commander, you're our last hope. This warship is more powerful than we thought. It won't go down easily." Hale looked at his crew, his heart pounding in his chest. "We'll make it. For Earth. For all of humanity." He turned to the Guardian, whose glowing eyes were locked on him. "We'll follow your lead. Show us the way." With a single nod, the Guardian motioned for Hale and his team to follow. Together, they boarded the remaining pods, the tension thick in the air. As the pods separated from the Sentinel, Hale looked out through the small viewport, seeing the massive alien warship approaching with slow, inevitable force. Inside the alien warship, the atmosphere was suffocating, dark and oppressive. The air felt thick with ancient power, the walls pulsating as if alive. The Sentinel crew and the Guardians moved in tight formation, their weapons drawn and ready. Every step they took echoed in the vast, empty corridors. The walls were adorned with strange glowing symbols, alien scripts that no human had ever seen before. "It's like this ship is alive," Ward muttered under her breath, her voice full of awe. "This isn't just technology, it's something more." The Guardian who led them stopped in front of a massive door, its surface inscribed with the same alien markings. "This is the heart of the warship. The artifact is beyond this threshold, but be warned, he said, his voice grave. The creature will try to stop you. It guards this place with its life. Hale nodded, his resolve steeling. We've come this far. We'll finish this. With a deep, resonating sound, the door slid open, revealing the core of the warship, a massive chamber at the center, lit only by eerie blue light. In the center of the room, hovering above the ground, was the artifact. It pulsed with energy, an enormous, crystalline structure surrounded by a swirling aura of power. But it wasn't alone. The creature, the one that had once been merely a shadow, was there, standing before the artifact. Its form was more massive now, as though it had absorbed the very essence of the storm. Its black, fluid-like body shimmered with unnatural light, and its eyes burned with fury. Hale's blood ran cold. This was the moment. The final battle. The Guardian raised his weapon, a long, ornate blade. We cannot let the creature touch the artifact. It controls the warship. If it reaches it, we'll lose. Hale gave the signal, and immediately the battle began. The creature lunged forward, its claws like jagged knives slicing through the air. The Guardians met it head-on, their weapons flashing in the low light. Hale and his team opened fire, their guns sending blasts of energy toward the creature, but it absorbed everything with terrifying ease. It was as if nothing could harm it, nothing could break its hold on the warship. Keep it distracted, Hale shouted, motioning to Ward. We need to reach the artifact. Ward nodded, her face set in determination. Together with the remaining crew, they made a run for the artifact, their weapons firing at the creature in an attempt to slow it down. The creature screeched, its form flickering with energy as it swiped at them, knocking a Guardian to the floor with a single blow. Hale's heart raced as he neared the artifact. He could feel the power pulsing from it, a raw, untamed force that seemed to call to him. He knew what he had to do. He reached out, his hand trembling as he touched the artifact. The instant his fingers made contact, a shockwave of energy exploded outward. The creature howled in rage, its form destabilizing as the artifact's power began to sever its connection to the storm. The air crackled with electricity as the creature's grip on the warship weakened. No! The creature roared, its voice deep and full of pain. The Guardians fought with renewed strength, pushing the creature back as the artifact began to glow brighter. Hale could feel the power building, the very fabric of the warship trembling as the creature lost its hold. With one final surge of energy, the artifact unleashed a blast so powerful it sent a shockwave through the warship. The creature was thrown back, its form disintegrating into wisps of dark smoke. The warship groaned, its lights flickering. The storm outside began to fade, its energy dissipating into space. The warship was losing its power, and with it, the creatures that had threatened the galaxy. But just as Hale thought they had won, a final, chilling message crackled through the Sentinel's comms. "This is not the end," the voice echoed, cold and alien. "It is only the beginning. The true war has only just begun."